been a wonderful day. Thank you so much for all the speakers. We've heard a lot of talks. We've heard a lot of Angular-specific talks. Obviously, we're on an Angular conference. We've heard also some AI-focused talks. And this conference is, or has a focus on AI in Angular. And I'm going to start with giving maybe a short introduction and then ask the first question to Mark. So maybe we can prepare the microphone. So just 12 months ago at NGDE 2024, AI in web development felt like a little bit like a more or less distant promise. Something we all experiment with on the weekends, during work, maybe generate a snippet here or there. And now, 12 months later, here we are at NG 2025, and Angular has transformed into one of the most AI-ready frameworks in the ecosystem. You can vibe code entire applications with Google AI Studio. You can build production-ready AI features with GenKit. The Angular MCP server lets you read docs easily. And this all happened just within a year. So my first question, maybe let's start with understanding the current landscape a little bit better. The Angular team has shipped an impressive array of AI capabilities this year. Mark, can you walk us through this AI transformation in the Angular team within only 12 months?
Sure. So back in 2023, I started giving technical talks about the upcoming changes that I was predicting that would happen with AI and software development in general. And I was telling people back in 2023 that things were going to change. The only thing that I was wrong about was the time frame. I thought that we'd be where we are now in 3 to 4 years. And it happened in about 8 to 12 months. So the time frame is really unpredictable for people knowing what to do, when to do anything. Things just changing really fast. So for Angular, around the time that I started giving technical talks, I started talking with the team internally about what our AI story would be. And we were prototyping some different things. And over the last, let's say 6 months, we really turned the corner in terms of shipping a lot of features. And a lot of that is because you already have the tools as Angular developers to build scalable web applications. You know how to do that work already. But what we saw as the opportunity was to make sure that as you have scalable web applications, they can also be powered by AI, meaning you can have integrations with things like GenKit or AI SDK, for example, but you could also build with AI as well. So do you have the tooling necessary to accelerate your development? So internally, we had our discussions about what will we do. So that's where things like the angular.dev/AI initiative came from. I proposed that to the team like, hey, we need a place for developers to get the recommendations from us as the Angular team so we can provide some direction and just let the community know that we are actually thinking about this with you. And we're not just telling you what to do, but we're actually thinking about it. We're working on it, and we're trying to grow. And then after we started with that part of the story, then came the tools like the Web Code Gen Scorer, where we were like, okay, well, if you want to generate code, then we got to prove that it's good. Because I'll be honest with you, getting integrations with things like Gemini and AI Studio, like all that's really important, but we have to show evidence like, hey, the prompts that we are providing are good. And not only are they good, we have evidence to support that. And so that whole path has led to where we are now, where we do have support in AI Studio, support in Gemini Canvas. I actually recently opened a PR to try to get support in Gemini CLI. We're working on a new extension for the Gemini CLI. So we are not stopping right now with our AI story. This is literally just the beginning. When I said this morning that it was the beginning, we really do mean that, because there's so much that we think that you can do with Angular and for your customers with using AI. Y'all know me so well. You know that I love the applause, so keep it coming.
So we've got AI Studio, GenKit 1.0, and now Gemini Canvas. Gregor, you've given a talk today, and it was a very, very interesting talk. You've had a lot of interesting metrics in your talk. From your perspective as a consultant and as a trainer, working with developers day to day, how do you see companies, and do you see companies use these tools already?
So, since we are in Germany, I think we still have to accelerate in adopting our artificial intelligence and integrating those tools. What I hear a lot, and I think where we really need quick answers to, is that a lot of companies need like local, so models that running locally and which are GDPR compliant. And yesterday we saw a lot of things that we can do, and an attendee came to me and said he's so sad because now he has to travel back and he cannot use all the cool things that already possible. This is, I really believe this is a really important thing that we need to tackle in the next few months as fast as possible.
Thank you. Jim, maybe a question to you because it fits kind of to the talk that you gave today. What's the difference between companies that succeed with these AI tools and why do some struggle in implementing those?
Well, then you should have gone to my talk. No, you were there. There's actually a ton of different things. The DORA report of this year, made by the Google Cloud team, they pick it apart really nicely. It starts all the way from the beginning, communicating about that we make a conscious decision to use AI for development, to all the way actually integrating it in. Integrating our databases, our documentation, our code bases into the AI, so it can perform better. It can help us better create code. Those are the things that that help and make it more efficient. Like one of the major struggles is. With AI in code is that you become so fast that you roll out code quicker, so you have to check more, right? You have to make the code in smaller batches, your increments should be smaller so that you have more control over what you push out. I think applying it in a way without thinking is dangerous because you end up creating a lot of mess, and actually your programs become more unstable, which is exactly what the DORA report also showed. Yeah.
Thank you. Kasia, question for you. We've heard the term vibe coding come up multiple times today. On a personal note and on a more kind of general note, how is this changing your tradition or your kind of workflow, and where do you see yourself in the future add the most value? And on a general note, what is your kind of advice to young coders in our audience?
Okay, so I think we should differentiate the vibe coding from the AI assistant coding, because these are two different things. So with the vibe coding, you don't really touch the code. You just describe what you want to do, and the AI, technically should implement it for you. But as we all know, it doesn't always do it in a good way. At least from my experience, it usually chooses this easiest path, which is not always the best. So the AI-assisted coding is more about, I think the most important thing is this human in the loop. So you actually review whatever the AI model generates for you, and you are fully aware you are fully aware on what you commit into the repository. Because in the end, it is ours, developers' responsibility, what we put into the repository. But AI makes a lot of things easier. So for example, in my company, we use Copilot for reviewing the pull requests. So obviously we have other developers that review the pull request, but also Copilot leaves the comments, and very often it just finds some trivial mistakes or some things that always takes a little bit of the mental load from the developers. So yes, it makes our lives easier, but it doesn't replace us. And honestly, from my experience, I don't think it will replace us in at least several years.
Mathieu, a little bit of a technical question for you, if I may. Let's talk architecture. We have GenKit position itself as server-side, but we need real-time AI features with great UX. Can you explain the recommended architecture pattern here?
Can you just repeat the end of the question?
Can you explain the recommended architecture pattern?
Just before, sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry for the audience. We have a lot of, what's the English word? Echo. So it's really difficult to understand for everybody here. GenKit positions itself as server-side, but we need real-time AI features with great UX. Can you explain the recommended architecture pattern here?
For great UX, in a sense that you mean for building the applications for the architecture. I would say the AI won't replace the architect. It will suggest ideas. It will help you challenge your own ideas. Yeah, you asking it the questions. Hey, what do you think of this with maybe this or that trade-off for my application? And will help you assist yourself. But do not expect it to be able to give you a fully fledged architecture without you knowing anything about that. So it will enhance you for sure. It will help you, make you more efficient, but won't do the work for you. And there is something more general I want to say. If you want to have the right answer, you need to ask the right question. And the LLM embodies that like nothing else. If you want the right question, you will need to ask it the right if you want the right answer, you will need to ask it the right question. So if you have no sense of architecture, well, you might have some issues on the long run.
Thank you. So maybe a question that is open to the whole panel. As we said before, we've got AI Studio for prototyping, GenKit for production, MCP servers for tooling. How do these pieces actually fit together in an enterprise Angular application?
So I'll start, but I definitely want to hear from a lot of the folks on this panel, from everyone, not a lot, all of you. I want to hear from all of you about this. So when you're thinking about how these pieces fit in, so I can talk about like where does the AI Studio fit into this story? So that's a great starting place when you want to do rapid prototyping. And that's how I see vibe coding is being really useful, is for rapid prototyping. So you can do some types of vibe coding with AI Studio. But then if you think about your architecture, early on, I described making a call to an LLM is to use the same care and precaution that you would make a call to an API. Same rules apply. So think about security, think about access. So who should have access to making a call to an LLM from your application? Should it just be open to anyone who submits a request? No, you would never do that, right? Like the same way with your API calls to any precious data resource, I say treat your architecture the same way when it comes to the LLM. So put the right guards in place, put all the things in place to make sure that those calls to the LLM are protected, they have the right authorization, and even in some cases, the right access with authentication, because here's what you also got to think about. Those tokens are not free, right? Like if you think about when you're generating applications and you have to pass all your context, that stuff isn't free. So you should be really thoughtful when you're building from that perspective. And I think if you're on the front end, you're like, well, I want to build a client-side application. I don't want to have the server side because I don't have any other APIs. I don't want to do this. So then you could use something like Firebase AI Logic, right? Which allows you to have a different way to, from the client side, call to your LLM, but that's all protected through that architecture that comes kind of out of the box. So I think those are some of the first architectural designs and decisions that you should make when you're thinking about how to build an enterprise level application that has access to an LLM.
I can add a bit more on this. Even if I haven't used GenKit that much and things like this, when we work on Angular itself, it was important to us, or at least we understood quite fast, that we will need an MCP with Angular. This is what the CLI already provides. and via multiple tools, and we are adding more and more tools to the MCP. The reason for that is, like I said before, what's important is the question. Part of the question is the context you give to the LLM that will help it understand what you really want. And with the context, it will understand where it's working. And the context for you when you develop Angular apps is Angular itself. So the MCP will be able to provide more information automatically without you having to prompt it directly. So part of it is, building an MCP so you can leverage it, so the LLM can actually leverage it to give you the best output possible. And maybe no, it's something I would say on another question.
So yeah, I really think that the MCP standardization unlocks a lot of potential in our companies, because we all working already with great tools that have been developed by you all here in this room to automate things, maybe to run tests, to version your code. And MCP just allows you to connect your existing tools, your existing resources like wikis. We have written so many documentations, and sometimes we do not even able to find what we have written down a few months ago. But here lies the power in MCPs. You can just create your own MCP server, connect your internal resources, access them safely, and then the LLM can take over and use those information. And your talk about NX generators and executors was great today, because we do not really need an LLM to generate code if we have NX generators and executors already built, but we can call them from our LLMs, and then we are pretty sure that the outcome is correct and that what we expect as well.
Maybe there's a question I can think of in this context is, if we see and look what AI can generate today, and we compare it to what production-ready Angular apps need now, what can you describe the gap, and what are we wishing for as developers?
I did not get the question.
Me neither.
The question is, what's the gap between what AI can generate today and what production-ready Angular app need?
While my friends here decide on their answers, I can tell you what my perspective of this is, because I don't think that there's necessarily a gap depending on the way you go about it, what the path you take is. So I think, as you mentioned about vibe coding being very different than AI-assisted coding. So in the vibe coding world, I don't see a world where vibe coding, at this time, the current world where vibe coding can replace us building scalable applications. Right? I don't think that that's the case. And plus, we don't have any data. We haven't seen any scalable vibe-coded application last over time with hundreds of thousands of users per day. I'm not talking per month. I'm talking like scale. Right? We won't have any data on that. So we don't know what's going to happen with that. But with AI-assisted coding, I think that there really isn't a gap, because going back to Matthew's point, if you ask the right question, then what you generate will be much more close to what we need for production. So for me, I don't ask it to generate entire modules of code. I ask it for review quite often, or alternative approaches. And sometimes I'll ask for a solution, but that's a little bit different than just saying, okay, here's my product requirement, and then generate this entire thing. It might be possible, but again, when you're looking at a fully autonomous solution where you're not involved, I think that's where the gap shows up. But if you're looking at it from an assisted point of view, that's why I love that word, assisted coding, that's just a different way. And you can I feel like you get stronger results that way. And you spend less time. You might not spend less time on the keyboard in that moment, but think about how much time before AI, assisted or generated code, think about how much time between implementing a feature, getting a code review, fixing bugs, and trying to land this feature. Think about how much time that is. I think that back-end time is where we'll save time with assisted coding. I don't think it's the time trying to save in that moment, because I still may spend an hour doing this feature, but I am much more confident that it's correct now, right? And so that's the interesting part. Wait, did I just take all your?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I'll
it's
talk
good.
too much. Go for it.
Okay, I'll just add something
You
on
can go
top of
first,
this.
so-
So don't get me wrong, like vibe coding has its usage, like for prototyping, then it can be well. I wouldn't be bold enough to publish the vibe coded solution to the production. But yeah, prototyping, showing some concepts, sure, why not? It definitely speeds things up. But for the production-ready software, what is a real game changer, and it was actually already said, are those MCP servers. Because the thing is that those AI models, they are dumb. They don't know anything if they don't have a right context. So even if you have a chat, you always have to provide all the chat history so that the model knows what to reply to you. And the same with the assisted coding. And with the MCPs, you can get exactly the context that is needed. So yeah, it's a big step forward, and I can see a big improvement using those copilots, cursors, and so on pre-MCP era. And now when I have NX MCP, the Angular MCP, which is great, by the way. So yeah.
Right. So I don't know about Angular. I don't work with Angular. I'm a Python guy. Sorry. I'm the odd one out.
Nobody's
here,
perfect.
I guess. Touche. But I think you know, when we're talking about vibe coding or AI assisted coding and what any developer community needs, it's about. I think first we have to talk about expectations. We have on one side we have investors and startup AI startup CEOs tell us that it's going to take a couple of months and we'll all be without a job and everything is vibe coded. And then we have the reality that this never happened. And what I also talked about today is that it's incredibly difficult to go from, it's impossible to go from human text to a completely finished big product. So vibe coding may seem to work when you demonstrate it. Like, look, I wrote a query and look, my program is there and maybe it runs, maybe not. That would work if you making maybe like a very simple single page application and something of a smaller size, right? And it becomes already cheating when I vibe code a class in existing code, because at that point I'm no longer vibe coding. I'm actually I'm actually doing AI assisted coding, right? Because it has the whole context. So in that regard, going back to like then what is the expectation? I think the expectation should be that AI assisted coding from here on out is the future. And vibe coding is a cool party trick, and sometimes it's really helpful to inject a piece of code in existing code. But I think that's about it. Yeah.
I want to add something here in the context of what you were saying. You were talking about expectation, and you were asking about the gap. I want to say, so we don't know how far AI will go. Maybe we already almost reached the capabilities. Maybe in 5 years, it will be what we do today considered somehow stupid almost. It's just like, I want to say the gap, ask what we can already do today. And I'll give you some interesting feedback that we learned really recently. First, as you know, as you might have seen, Gregor Dimo showed the web code Cogent Scorer that the team developed recently to evaluate models depending on inputs, etc., etc. So he helped us evaluate how models react with the context we gave them. That's how we created the file, the context file that helped us give you better outputs for your applications. And also, you need to know that with the MCP, the Angular team developed an MCP and used it also internally to test the new signal forms. Because you need to know that AI is as stupid as every one of you here. It will make the same mistakes if the API is built in a weird manner. So sometimes you just see that the AI behaves the same way as you would have. And with the MCP loaded with a lot of examples, we were able to test the new signal form APIs and get immediate feedback on how developer would probably behave with this, and help us understand that the API we propose looks actually pretty solid and quite consistent in terms of how you would understand and how the AI would understand it. So I want to say the gap is actually not important, but what you can do today, ask the AI to assist you not only on prototyping, but on testing what you have today and say, okay, how developers will use it. And instead of taking 3 or 6 months of waiting for feedback, you could have it in a couple of hours today. So in terms of developing, prototyping, trying things, it will speed you up like never seen before.
I have a question that is connected to that. Not only is the toolkit changing, but also with LLMs, learning is changing. The learning curve is much faster. You can ask questions. You have a personal mentor. If you, maybe all personal, can share, how do you use it? And also, how do you recommend our community to use LLMs to learn? Because you can share knowledge much differently now. You can ask us, how do you share best practices the best way?
So maybe I can start. So one very specific thing that you can all use is that the Angular team already provide a kind of AI tutor. If you want to learn Angular or want to that new colleagues learn Angular faster, there is a pretty good integration where you can learn Angular step by step by solving tasks, and then you get immediate feedback how good your solution was, and you get also feedback if you can go to the next task. So how I use it especially, I was about giving this answer before, but now I'm happy that you asked that question too. For me, using AI in my all-day work is sometimes like looking in the mirror. Because for me, AI works perfectly when I know what I am doing, when I really know what my goal is and what I try to achieve. Yesterday in the workshop, we reviewed an Angular component and we written down a specification how to refactor it. And then we started an automatic refactoring using an LLM. This worked perfectly. We all know how to refactor code and how to analyze it. And then the next thing kicked in really, really hard. That was a great experience in that workshop. We used the AI as an amplifier because we started small with a little component, refactoring the code, and then we applied this specification to the whole code base. And we had a huge improvement in the code quality in around 10 minutes. And if we would have done it manually, we would sit for an hour or 2 hours. And maybe think of AI first as a mirror that you can look in. So it will remember you what you haven't specified well enough. And second, think of it of an amplifier of your skills that you already have.
So today I forgot his name, but I talked to a guy today that also gives workshops, and he actually had a really interesting thing he did to have his students for workshops actually learn is that the AI that he had implemented in the IDE was not supposed to actually give answers, but supposed to give hints. And I think that's really interesting because then if you're stuck, then you get like pointed towards the solution instead of just being presented completely with the solution, because then you don't learn, then you just copy paste, right? I thought it was a really cool thing, yeah.
I want to say 3 points to that. First, I would say the LLMs are great for juniors because you'll have, for the first time ever, access to a senior developer anytime you want, which, when you are a junior, is an unseen possibility. Usually, senior developers are either not good and available, then they're useless, or they are in meetings the whole day and they won't be able to answer your question before the next. So, first thing, junior, you are in a situation where you have a lot of luck, even if the market is maybe complicated, but it's up to you to leverage that tool to learn as fast as never seen before. Second thing I would say, as you might know, I love to code everywhere, anywhere, and I love to have a 4G connection. I was really surprised to see recently when I went to London for Angular Connect that I was able to send a PR while under the channel. In the channel tunnel. Was really happy to do this. And I was happy to have the connection all the way because yeah, of course, the LLM, they need the internet connection to give you the output. And recently, I went on a short-haul flight. Short-haul flight usually mean no Wi-Fi, and I wanted code and was like, no suggestion, nothing. I was like, I felt like it just killed my productivity by half at least. I didn't get all the simple, what I call today the TDD, which is tab-driven development. So yeah, you start something like, imagine you write a unit test, you start the prompt of the unit test, say, okay, and then you say tap, 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 you check, okay, it's cool, thank you very much. So yeah, it kills productivity today to say, if you don't have access to that. That's the second point. And the third point would be, I forgot it.
So before the AI and the LLMs, there was this yellow duck method for debugging. I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but basically the idea was that if you run into an issue when coding, instead of bothering your coder friend, start explaining your problem to a yellow rubber duck. Because very often when you start explaining this, you will come up with a solution. And what I found now with the LLMs is actually they replaced the yellow rubber duck. Because every time I have some issue, I talk with the LLM, I brainstorm about it, and it's just great of kind of figuring out the ideas. So the AI can give you some idea, but once you talk with them, you actually might come up yourself with an even better idea. So it's perfect brainstorming tool for me.
I think Matthew remembered his third point.
Yeah. so no, it was another. So I have a use case also. Every senior developer is also a junior when it starts something somehow new. When I joined the team, I did more and more work with the TypeScript compiler. The TypeScript compiler is kind of complex and usually not documented at all. So how do you start learning something that you only have few examples but no documentation? Well, a few years ago, you were kind of fucked. Today, way luckier, you use your favorite LLM, you ask a question, just set your expectations right, you don't expect something perfect, but say, okay, I have an idea, how would you write something like this using that compiler API? And it gives you, let's say it scaffolds something, it may be 80% perfect, the rest it's up to you, but it bootstraps you. So it helps you learning, and like I said, I felt like a junior back. Even if I had 10 years experience, first time touching the compiler, I was like, I don't understand anything, but I could have my senior helping me and get output quite quickly and make me so much more productive and learn quite fast.
So I do a lot of different type of work at Google. So I do everything. So I do engineering work, but not as much as like someone like Matthew does, but also like write scripts or videos, because a lot of you know me from videos, for example. So I write scripts and videos, and then I write lots of documents and strategy documents. I write a lot. I don't even know how to write. Like, I'm not even a writer, but that is a big part of my life now. And I'm like, I got into engineering because I didn't like writing. And so one way I use in a non-technical way, sometimes someone will ask me something that I already told them or that I already did, and I'll write my true response. And then I'll say, okay, Gemini, make this polite, right? And then it'll take my email and make it polite so I can actually send it. And here's a recent engineering story. The new landing page that I show, you know that we did not have event landing pages on Angular.dev before. So I just created this last week, but I knew that Matthew was going to review it. Matthew is an excellent code reviewer and an excellent engineer. So I needed to add some new properties to one of the components, and I wanted them to be optional properties. So what's the first thing you probably think on the interface? You put a question mark because it's optional. But I was like, Gemini, is this the right way to do this? And it was like, you can, or you can make the type be string, the union type of string and null. I'm like, but it's optional. Why would I do that if it's optional? And I went back and forth with Gemini for probably literally about 15 minutes, being like, nope, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that this union type is better than making it optional. And then over time, I got to see a different perspective. But the goal was I didn't want to have to go back and forth with Matthew. If he had suggested that, you know why? Not because he's wrong or right, it's because it delays the time to landing that page. The event is this month. It's only in 2.5 weeks. So I needed it to be right the first time. So that goes back to what I was telling you earlier about saving time down the pipeline. right? So maybe it spent me more time going back and forth than just accepting the review. The feedback from Gemini, right? Maybe I spent a little bit more time. Maybe some of you are like, oh, I'm smarter than Mark. I would have done that the first time. And I'm proud of you. Very good work. But for me, this was my actual real life experience where I kind of argued with the LLM because I just wasn't convinced. But guess what? It wasn't a human who could get frustrated. Like, come on, Mark, I got to get back to work. It was like, sure, you're absolutely right. Let me show you another example. Oh, that didn't make sense. You know what? Great point, Mark. Here's another example. Then I was like, hey, fine. Put both solutions with pros and cons on the table. Because what I wanted to be able to do at the end of the day was defend my solution. Had Matthew or anybody else say, why did you do this? I still needed to understand and know why we were making that choice.
I think that's a beautiful note to end. And to go to the Q&A part, thank you so much to all the speakers on stage. A round of applause, please. And for good measures, another round of applause, please. In German theater, you do this for about 20 minutes, but we're luckily not in German theater here. So we go to the Q&A part. Who's got a question? And when you ask a question, I would ask you to share one moment that you really thought was beautiful today. It can be some conversation that you had. It can be something that you learned. You can say it briefly. And where do we start? It's very bright here, so...
And please don't be shy.
Yes, first one.
Yeah, hello. My question is not about AI. That might be surprising.
Thank you, goodbye.
But regarding Angular itself and single file component, ng format, and some time ago I found probably in analog.js tutorial a line of code with a keyword like language equal JavaScript or TypeScript. I asked you, Mark, some time ago if you are planning to make Angular or analog.js language agnostic. You answered me that it's not in plans, but my question is, if it's now making an Angular language agnostic, and and the future of ng format. Thank you.
Just for the joke, Mark is not Brandon.
Because Brendan makes analog.js. So let's talk about there are two parts there. So you said about ng format, and then the first part was, wait, come back. Ola, come back.
What?
The first part of his question.
Sorry, I was going to the next person.
I understand.
The first question was, what's the future of ng format? If it was an experiment or you are preparing something in the future.
Oh, and will we make Angular agnostic? That was the other part, like language agnostic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that's the other part. Thank you for repeating that. So we don't, right now, from what I'm aware of, we don't have any plans to make Angular like language agnostic where you could say language equals like JavaScript or language equals Python or something else. Like we don't have any plans for that I'm aware of. And in terms of the ng format, Matthew, you have any?
Yes, so you're talking about the prototype that was only on analog. That was an analog only prototype. It was driven by analog only without consulting the team. It's just like something that we were really interesting to see how it behaves, how people are liking it or not. But it was something that we were just looking as a curiosity, but it's totally independent from the work we are doing directly. And as Mark is saying, it is something that we like to see, but we don't know yet if it's that the direction that we'd like to go. But it was definitely a very interesting prototype that the analog team was driving.
And briefly, to understand why we would not make that decision, please come tomorrow for Jens's keynote. He's going to talk a lot about how we make decisions, because why is that not as important as something else, right? And this is not the place to answer that, but the keynote, he's going to talk about our decision-making process.
Maybe to add to that, tomorrow we will have another panel, and it's going to be about the future of Angular, the framework itself. So there will be also opportunity to ask exactly these questions. I mean, not this question again, but similar questions. Another question?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Dewey. I'm right here. Hello. Yeah, so actually one of the favorite moments just before I asked my questions was I met Arun. He's one of the helpers here. He takes pictures. He's super friendly. That was really, really cool. It was the highlight of my day.
Round of applause for Arun.
I also have an Angular specific question, but I have another questions that maybe I'll ask tomorrow because you guys are making decisions tomorrow, and that question will be more about that. But it all both has to do with Signal. So I myself have been developing Angular for 8+ years now. So I would call myself as a reasonably expert developer in Angular. And with that, I'm also very familiar with RxJS. So I would say I'm an expert in it. And when Signal came out, I continuously asked myself, what can that do that RxJS cannot do? And that pushed me into the direction of questioning whether I should learn it. So I still have this doubt in myself. I see that there's so many Signal stuff coming, and I understand it's easy to learn. I can definitely do this. But just for good measures, for somebody like me, what would your recommendation be? Why should I learn this?
It's a very good question, just because we hear it almost every day. So when you talk about signals versus observables, you're actually asking the questions of, is an apple also a banana? The answer is no. But do you like both? The answer is yes. So with signals, you're representing a state that changes eventually. With observables, you have like a pipe where you're throwing marbles into it. So the pipe, one marble gets in, one marble gets out. And it's like 1-to-1. With signals, you get that part that is eventually. You will not get a notification on each change. You will get a notification eventually. And this is where we start to talk about pull-based versus push-based. The signal will get a notification that something happened, but you will pull the data, and at this time, all the computation will happen. With RxJS, you send something on a subject, for example, and then when you send something, the whole pipe is executed at the moment you send it. It's not eventually, it's at the moment it's sent. So it means that you get that one-to-one behavior, one in, one out, and etc. With the signals, you only have the eventual part. So you have that kind of optimization. So if timing is not important, you will prefer signals. If timing is important, if the order is important, if each individual value is important, you will reach for RxJS. And to give a bit more insights, if the team would have to give a recommendation, which it actually does inside of Google, is saying, okay, by default, we recommend go with signals by default and reach out to RxJS if you have a good use case. And let me tell you, there are a lot of good use cases, but before we used RxJS for everything, but like the saying says, when you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So I would advise to be curious, look and understand the differences between observables and signals, and you will find out by yourself when you need one or the other. They are not exclusive. You will probably want to use both of them. I don't know if that answer satisfies you. Thank you so much.
Do we have another question? Yes.
Hi, I'm Tabea, and the moment that I want to share of today is, well, actually, it's a lot of micro moments that kind of restored my love of programming because I got to chat with a lot of beautiful people. Thank you for all the conversations that I had today.
Round of applause, please.
Now to my question. It might be a little broad. So I love the discussion about AI, and something that I currently struggle with is debugging my application. The Angular resources are awesome when it comes to coding, but I found it very hard to find interesting articles to actually help me debug. And I found that LLMs also don't really have good hints if I know that my logic kind of is correct and something weird is happening with my state management or something. Do you have recommendations where to start, either with actual resources or with LLM config or something?
I'll maybe start. I want to acknowledge that your problem is something that comes up after indeed you start doing vibe coding or just normal coding, is that AI actually isn't good today to help you debugging. Because AI needs information, AI needs context, and you need to plug the things all together. Today, we often have, you passed in some text, you get some code, etc. But it doesn't talk directly to your developer console, for example. It doesn't talk to, when I say developer, the console where you start your scripts. But it doesn't talk either to the DevTool console. And the Chrome team is already looking into how we could build an MCP, how the LLM could discuss with the Chrome DevTool MCP, or when I say Chrome DevTools, any browser DevTools, we will need that it will access to the runtime, to the information. So today, the topic is, the answer I want to say is, unfortunately, there is no good answer for this today, but it's something that people are working all around at different level, in the browsers, in the tooling that's able to talk to the browsers, to the framework that will also need to provide debug informations. Working a bit on the Angular DevTools, we know that we need to provide more informations to developers, to the tools, so that LLMs can finally help you do better debugging.
Yeah, so I think we all can learn more about the Chrome DevTools already. So I consider myself maybe using 30% of the capabilities what Chrome DevTools already provide. So if you head over to google.dev, there are great resources about debugging and how you can isolate problems. There's much over there. And the AI agents also have improved a lot the past few months. So if you use something like Copilot or Cursor, they are now able to connect to your terminal, for example, and they are able to catch compiler errors or runtime errors. So I know that Cursor is also able to connect to your browser tab and discovers runtime errors and then helps you to find resources on resolving your issue as well. And I also think, I haven't used it before, but I also think that also Chrome shipped with the most recent version, intelligent debugging or AI debugging. Just when an error occurs in the terminal, there is a model shipped with Chrome, and then it explains the error to you, or it tries to give you hints.
There is a small light bulb when you have a message. You say, "Okay, can you try to explain me this?" And sometimes for example, it understands that error comes from an Angular error and can help you a bit with what's happening. So, of course, there's some starts already available, but integration is a bit lacking. Maybe, Kasia?
Yeah. Okay. So my recent discovery is the browser MCP. Yeah, I know, MCP again, but it makes Cursor able to connect to the browser, and it can actually read the contents of the page. I'm not 100% sure if it can read the errors in the console. I think it should be able to, but it's a great tool to say like, hey, Cursor, I have the issue with this and this on the page, and then it actually connects to the page, it sees the context, and it's able to give me a better answer.
Awesome. We have another question. Actually, two more here on the other side. Waving.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Sergey. We have already talked today with Mark about work-life balance. And another thing what we have as what precious thing is our time. And what AI really good at is to create text. So we can create MD files to use it in another tool that can create some presentation, because people consume information better when it's visually assisted. So the question is, do you use AI for creating your presentations?
So I'm going to say something a little controversial here. Who saw me this morning? You saw me this morning. AI couldn't tell me to do any of the things that I do. And what I mean by that is AI, so the way models are trained is the same way that if you've seen a movie or a type of movie 1,000 times, you can predict the next line. You've seen that before. Or you heard a type of song, and then you can predict the next line because it works on patterns. See, I am not in the patterns. And I don't like for even the idea for me to be reduced to a pattern. So when I present, I am 100%, I don't even look at LLMs to like do anything for me because they just couldn't be me. Like, I think what makes me unique and what makes you unique is the magic that is literally what you are born with. The way that you talk, the way that you think is what makes you interesting when you're presenting and when you're communicating. So for me, LLMs, I don't even use them for images because I think they all look the same. I think all of us at this point can look at a LLM image and point it out almost immediately with the graphic ones, not the ones that look like human-like, not synthetic people. Those are a little bit harder, but the cartoon style, we can all see those a mile away and be like, oh yeah, that was, Mid-Journey, or that was from, Nano Banana. Like, see, I don't like that. I just go through the old school way of just, being myself and letting myself come through my presentations.
So you were asking if I would create my presentation with it. So yes, I do. But let me clarify a little bit on the process. So today my talk was 100% me and my creativity. So if you head over to the repository where you find my talk, you will find the whole talk written down as a text, so you can read through everything. But what I was using AI for was just, hey, create the slides for me, basically. So I delegate those tasks to AI where I think, okay, I can just save my time. And what I also said this morning or just before lunch, you need to be the driver when you use AI tools. You are the judge. You decide what will be integrated. And with AI tools, you get like a spaceship, and you need to learn how to fly the spaceship. Otherwise, it can go horribly wrong.
I just use it sometimes for fun illustrations. Just because we're in Germany, I had to create once an AI image with Angela Merkel, but it was Angela Merkel. So yeah, Merkel Krause with the Angela logo.
I love that. Can you show that tomorrow, maybe in the panel? That would be great. We actually just have time for one last question. You wanted to answer that one as well?
Yeah, I wanted.
Go.
Yeah, I mean, using AI to generate anything that is that is supposed to be written by you or done by you makes it a little bit dangerous, right? If I am giving, as you said as well with the presentation, but also if you're writing an article, for instance, and it's completely AI generated, I mean, we're filling the internet with like AI generated text, and it's just not a pretty sight, especially if the new models are being trained with that data. It's let's not do that.
And you end up with people saying, okay, it's too long, I'll ask the AI to read text that was generated by the AI. Yeah, loop is closed, thank you.
Yeah, but you can still use the AI to brainstorm, which is a really good way to do it.
Yeah.
Like, at least this is how I use it. So all my talks are always the use case from my work, because this is what I feel confident about. This is what I actually use in a real life. So I know I can go out to people and show it. But then to make a structure, to kind of wrap the thing, I tell AI like, hey, I have this topic and blah, 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 and ask him to kind of provide me the structure. Then I reevaluate it for like 1 million times. But yeah, I find it very helpful to structure my thoughts and to put everything in order. And I do generate images.
So I just want one, I know we got to go, but one clarification. One, no problem if you do generate stuff. So I don't want to come off that way that I'm against you if you do that. So please don't take it that way. I think for me, I might be a little bit unique in the case. Between the last 5 years, I've done 75 talks. That's why I don't need it, because I know what to do already. right? And I'm really fast at creating my slides because I just know what to type and I know how I talk. Like if you saw, all my slides look the same because I put very few words and lots of like very quick to identify landmarks for you so that way you can follow what I'm saying. If there's a lot of text up there, then you can't follow it. So that's why I put very short text. That's why I said for me, and I'm really speaking for Mark, that you give that many talks, you'll be really fast at like, making slides too.
So we have one last question.
Please.
Yeah, hi. My favorite moment kind of today was, as Ava said, meeting other developers around here, especially also meeting old colleagues from old jobs, which was really fun. And obviously AI is a topic you at some point in the conversation go to, especially with all the AI talks going on. One thing that was a bit concerning to me was you said it is also great to be used as kind of a mentor or a tutor, especially on things you do not know yourself much about. And I always had the feeling that when I used AI on topics I wasn't well versed in, the problem of hallucinations always tripped me up really hard. So is really using AI as kind of a teaching source a great idea? Because at least I feel I don't really have a lot of trust in what I'm getting back.
Excellent point. And I would just say, don't let it be the last or the ultimate for you, right? So I would say use it as a source, just like when you're doing a research paper, you get multiple sources. It can be one of your sources. I don't think that you necessarily have to say, well, LLM told me, and then that is de facto truth, right? I would say use it as a source. And sometimes it might be the best source available though, right? You can look at other blogs and you can look at videos. You might say, okay, I still don't get it. And then also let me consult here. So just one way to think about it as an additional source.
Yeah, what I wanted to add is like, when I ask an LLM about anything, especially when I use any of the foundational models, I don't trust it, right? I think you shouldn't either, because hallucination, no matter how hard they try, it's still a big issue. So if you're learning on something related to Angular, maybe feed it documentation and then ask about the topic, so it has a way better understanding of what you're asking about. Like context is all that matters, I feel, with these LLMs. They're really good at deducing text and then explaining it to you what's going on and what you should be doing. But just with any of the foundational models, it's just really dangerous to just base all of your knowledge out of what it says. Like I can give a minor anecdote. I have a walnut tree, and some of the walnuts that fell off of it, they had a little mold, and I was like, "Can I eat this?" So I asked ChatGPT and Cloud, and they were like, "Yeah, sure, you can eat it. They're really poisonous. Don't do it." So yeah, same with coding. Yeah.
I want to add on the topic, say it's again about expectations. If you're not sure what you're doing, but that's somehow your last resort, that's how you move forward. Okay, set the expectation not very high, saying, okay, at least maybe it works. If it's code, what can you do next? Well, write unit tests, you write tests, and the test would at least ensure that what you're testing is covered and what you are doing is at least working as it should. If you are a bit lucky, your code's going to be reviewed by someone with a bit more experience. What happened to me, for example, when I was working with a compiler, I started with, well, what the LLM gave me wasn't perfect, got feedback, learned from the feedback, learned from myself. And it was actually the best I could get with the situation, with the resource I could have. So it's about the expectation. Okay, it's not perfect. Nobody's code is. So just be okay with that and just take as much as you can and learn from it, I would say.
Oh, I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you.
Can I ask one last thing?
Now, one moment.
Or maybe you wanted to say it already, is that even if the Q&A is ending, we're still here today and tomorrow. If you have further questions, that's why conferences are great. You can ask the questions outside of just the talks. So please do.
Thank you, Mathieu. Thank you, Kasia. Thank you, Gregor. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Mark. Thank you all for being here
Thank you
tonight.
so much.